Is there a fast track to manifesting? Well, that's exactly what we're talking about today on Mindful Manifesting, and you're listening to Ariana Rollins. But before we get into this episode, if you would like to kickstart your manifesting journey and get access to one of my favorite processes, it's a clarity wish list process. It's so good. It helps you get clear on what you want and why. All right. So this is a phrase that kept noodling around in my head for the last week, and it's manifesting through love. I was like, okay, what does that mean? Manifesting through love. It's not manifesting love, because we all would like to have more love in our life. And generally speaking, not that this is what this episode is about, is that we want to be accepted and loved. And do you know the person that we want that from the most? We think it's our partner, we think it's our family, maybe even our children, but it's us. When we have that self-love and self-acceptance, we are immune to the criticism from the outside world. We are truly free. Truly free. So let's talk about manifesting through love. Well, if you have followed any of these wonderful teachers, Abraham Hicks or Dr. Joe Dispenza, Abraham Hicks in particular, and not only him, but there are other teachers that focus on the frequency and vibration of different emotional states. So you may have hatred, grief, disappointment, frustration, and then you've got love and I think joy. They're way, way at the top. And they're a vibration. Now, we are feeling machines. Whether we admit that we're sensitive, we can feel when someone's upset with us. It doesn't take massive development to feel someone's anger or upset. And we can also feel love. But here's what's interesting, is that it is far easier to register the lower frequencies like anger than it is to register love and joy. And there's a really simple reason for it, is the more experience we have with something, the more exposures we have, the easier it is to recognize and easier it is to sense, tune in, and feel it. We have a lot more examples of anger and frustration growing up than, for the most part, love. And I'm not saying that we don't experience love and joy from others, but generally speaking, the world is trying to influence us to learn something, do something, be a certain way. And when we are not that way, we experience frustration. So we are quick to recognize anger, not so quick to recognize love and joy, which is interesting, isn't it? How many times have you ever seen a movie, or maybe it's been you, where you had a friend or you had someone in your friendship circle and you figure out that they really liked you for a while and you had no idea, you were oblivious to it. Isn't that interesting? All right, so I will get to manifesting through love, but these are all just really wonderful considerations as we think about love. Okay, friend of mine of over 20 years, I remember when I was going through a difficult time with a team that I was working with. And he had said to me, I was working for this company once and just people weren't getting along. And I noticed that, in the hallways, people were disgruntled or he'd overhear conversations. There was a lot of complaint, a lot of frustration. And it was bothering him. He didn't like to hear it because he's a pretty easygoing guy. Very easygoing guy and very caring, very supportive of his friends, his partner, and his job, the people he works for. Very loyal person. So he said one day, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a conversation with them and send them love. I'm like, interesting. So he didn't just walk up to the person and say, hey, I love you, man. Because then what are they going to do? That would be funny. What he did is he did this inner dialogue. And I teach a lot of inner dialogue in my work, especially in the Highest Potential program, and all the programs actually. But we really master it in the Highest Potential program. What is inner dialogue? Well, I'll give you a simple example of it, and if it feels aligned for you to try it, then I invite you to try it. You would close your eyes and you would focus on your heart. I would suggest taking a couple deep breaths in, because your lungs are really close to your heart, and you can start to feel calmer, especially if you've had a full day. Close your eyes, take a couple deep breaths in, focusing your awareness on your heart, focusing the energy on your heart. And then you tune in and you want to feel your, what I call true self, higher self, inner being. I really use true self a lot. And it's not that we're not being true to ourselves, not that. True self is that spiritual part that is everlasting and has wisdom beyond just our present moment frustrations. It has a lifetime view, and some would say many lifetime views and experiences, and holds that for you. So you could focus on your heart, your eyes are closed, and say, please show me a memory where I felt relaxed, fulfilled, peaceful, satisfied, maybe even loved. And you might get a glimpse, like a photograph or a feeling or an intuitive awareness. And just take whatever comes up, focusing on that memory, that moment in time, and ask, true self, were you present? Usually, if it's a moment where you were aligned, you felt that peaceful, joy, or loving state of consciousness, then it's quite likely you're going to get a yes. And that yes is not likely going to be in words. It's going to be you're leaning forward or you feel uplifted. And there's like this confirmation. Yeah, true self was present. Awesome. Okay. So now that you've got a sense of that inner being, your nature, your highest, most healed self, we could also say, you could ask, is it appropriate for my highest and best good to speak with? And this is an inner conversation. It's not speaking to the person, okay? So maybe it's someone you've been having some difficulties at work, or you're just noticing that they're having a rough time. You'll either feel or sense a yes or no, and then you lean into it. If you get that yes, you ask the other person. So let's just say his name is David. And say, David, is it appropriate? Would you be willing to talk to me in this ball of white light? You'll usually get a yes, because again, it's not that it's a real conversation in terms of physical world. It's an energetic, emotional conversation. Okay. Say, I just want to send you some love and just tell you how much I appreciate who you are. Just sending you love. And that's it. Let them go. Thank them for the time. Let them leave the ball of white light, and they go back to whatever they're doing, and you close it down. Now, so back to my friend. So he was doing this with everybody. It was a small company. And he said he noticed there was more positivity, less complaint, less frustration. And I was like, wow, it's worth a try. So I started doing it. I started sending love. And you know, this is a common new age thing to do, right? Just send love. But I don't know if there is actually a training on how to do it. This is it. This is how to send love truly. It's not just words. You want to feel it in your heart. You want to be connected and aligned with your inner being, and then you're sending that love. So I did this, and I noticed that in this team, there was a tad more harmony. a tad more patience and listening to the other persons in the meetings. And I was like, oh, this is good. So I started to do this with every client call that I had. I would prep myself in the morning, and wouldn't be this formal long process, just appreciating them and coming from that heartfelt place of sending love. So that's something that I think will ease our day. Because if you feel appreciated and you feel loved, don't you give the best of yourself? I know I do. So let's talk now. Let's circle back to this manifesting through love. Now, we don't live in a world by ourselves. There are 8 billion other humans thinking, feeling, processing, striving, working, sleeping, loving, doing everything on the planet. There's a lot going on, a cacophony, if you may, a cacophony of demands, emotions, and expressions. What if through your day you caught yourself, if you were in frustration, if you were in worry, if you were in disappointment? What if you caught yourself before you shared that emotion? What do I mean by shared that emotion? Well, we can share it in several ways. One is we talk about what we're worried about, frustrated about, angry about, or we think about it. We worry it. We worry it to death. Actually, no, we worry it to life. We worry what we are upset about into material reality. I'm going to say that in another way because it's really important to understand that. Worry is a negative form of manifesting. We can worry into our reality what we don't want. Have you heard of somebody getting concerned about layoffs in their job, and then all of a sudden they're worried about it? I'm not saying they manifest it, but I am saying that energy can possibly usher along the very outcome we don't want. There is a true power to manifesting through worry and negativity, and we don't want to be them. We don't want to be that person. So catching ourselves when we're in that negative, frustrated state and shifting it, maybe sending love and appreciation to yourself. Like, you're doing so good, Ariana. Well done, Ariana. Well done. Like we would to speak to a 2-year-old. I tell you, it works. Yeah. Fortunately, I live alone or with my dog. Not fortunately, but the dog doesn't care what I say to myself. And I do. I talk to myself a lot. So manifesting through love, we could literally stop the negative spiral of worry, doubt, fear, frustration, and we will notice the things that we do want to bring into our life, the things we do want to come, can start to flow to us because there's less resistance. There's less resistance in your field. It's a really good episode. I'm trying to remember. I think it might be 82 or 78 within Mindful Manifesting. And I was speaking about overcoming obstacles and this resistance that can be in our field. Just like when they're sending power through an electrical line, that there is a resistance, certain substances, and I'm really showing my ignorance here. I'm sorry, maybe not a good example here, but there are certain metals, and even water is highly conductive and will transmit energies, right? I mean, the horrible image is, electrical appliance dropped in water. That energy will get transmitted. So if we think of ourselves as primarily, 70, 80%, 90%, I got to get my stats before. But you know what? I never prep with these. Not never, but rarely. I just speak and what needs to be said comes out. That we are filled with water. Our brain is hugely filled with water. So if there is that water is conductive, and if you drop an electrical appliance in it, that electricity gets transmitted through the water. Well, we feel through the waters in us. We feel the emotions, we feel the frustration, we feel the anger, and so does everybody else. We may not be able to translate it where it's coming from, but wouldn't we also feel the love? Maybe not translate it and know where it's coming from, but wouldn't we be aware that there's certain people we feel good around and there's certain people we don't? We might say, oh, they're just having a bad day. Oh, they're anxious. But could it be that we're not feeling a love vibration? I mean, that sounds so hokey, doesn't it? But it is. It's a vibration. So manifesting through love starts with you, as everything does, doesn't it? It starts with, how are you turning up in your business? How are you turning up with clients? How are you turning up with your child? How are you turning up with your partner? How are you turning up with your dog? Are you vibrating love, appreciation? Or are you vibrating frustration? You're not doing what I want. So catch that. Even if you say, hey, I'm going to try it for 7 days. I'm going to catch that negative spiral of frustration, worry, and I'm going to flip it. Flip the switch. Flip the channel. Flip the channel. From that worry mode into all is well. Everything has a way of working out for me. That's a phrase I often say to myself. And I say it to my son, even when he's trying to navigate the complexity of his life as a 20-year-old. Graduating, get a job. Oh, what's the next job? Should I stay with this one? It's tough. It's tough. So I often say to him, everything has a way of working out for you. You notice that, right? He said, yeah. And that can be enough to shift your state of mind. So you start manifesting through love, or manifesting through a higher vibration of emotional feelings and states, because everybody feels it. All right, as we wrap up, and I just remembered at the beginning of this episode, I forgot to tell you where to get your Kickstart Your Manifesting Journey. There is an upgraded version coming soon. And hopefully, as I say this to you, I will make myself accountable and I'll get it done maybe before the next 2 episodes. All right, as we wrap up, remember, as you confirm yourself, you chart your own path to success. So much love. Thanks for listening, and have a wonderful rest of your week.